Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I've been living in Winnipeg, Canada for almost 5 years. And today I would like to share my honest thoughts about living in Canada. Before I start, I want to make it clear that this video is simply my personal opinion based on my own experiences. Everyone's experience is different, and you may not agree with everything I say. Canada has many wonderful qualities, and I genuinely enjoy living here. However, after spending 5 years in Canada, there are some issues that have really stood out to me. So let's get started. One of my biggest frustrations is Canada's tax system. As your income increases, your tax rate also increases significantly. Sometimes it feels like working harder doesn't necessarily improve your quality of life because so much of your additional income goes to taxes. I understand that taxes pay for healthcare, infrastructure, education, and many other public services. However, I sometimes question whether Canadians are getting enough value in return. For people who want to work overtime, get promoted, or start a business, the tax burden can feel discouraging. If people feel discouraged from earning more or contributing more at work, is that really good for productivity or economic growth? Personally, I'm not so sure. Canada is known for being generous internationally. The government provides foreign aid, accepts refugees, and contributes to humanitarian programs around the world. I respect helping people in need, and I think it's important. However, I also believe the government should pay equal attention to problems at home. For example, housing has become extremely expensive. Rent in cities like Toronto and Vancouver has reached unaffordable levels. Many young people struggle to buy their first home. Many graduates have difficulty finding stable jobs. The overall cost of living continues to increase. Sometimes it feels like many Canadians are already struggling, yet the government continues to spending significant amount of money overseas. Again, that's just my personal perspective. Canada is one of the richest countries in the world when it comes to natural resources. It has oil, natural gas, minerals, forests, hydroelectric power. Yet many energy projects face years of delays or are cancelled because of regulations and political disagreements. I completely understand that environmental protection is important. However, I think there should be a better balance between protecting the environment and developing Canada's economy. I believe Canada has enormous economic potential, but it isn't fully utilizing these opportunities to generate income, create jobs, and strengthen the economy. Canada already has a minimum wage. Unlike some states in the US, restaurant servers generally cannot be paid only a few dollars per hour. So why is tipping still expected? If waiters deserve tips because they provide service, why don't we also tip cashiers, retail workers, grocery store employees, customer service representatives? They all provide services too. Serving customers is already part of a waiter's job. The employer hired them and paid them wages to do that job. So why has tipping become an obligation instead of a reward of exceptional service? Nowadays, even self-checkout machines ask for tips. Honestly, who exactly am I tipping? The machine? Canada often describes itself as a free market economy. However, in many industries, consumers don't actually have many choices. For example, in banking, the Canadian banking industry is dominated by the big five banks. Even if you choose a virtual bank, there's good chance it's still owned by one of the big five. For example, Simply Financial is owned by CIBC. In telecommunications, only a few large companies control mobile phones and internet services. Compared to many other countries, Canadians often pay much higher prices for phone plans and internet. In grocery stores, a handful of supermarket chains dominate the market. When competition is limited, companies have more power to keep the prices high because consumers simply have fewer alternatives. Recently, I saw news reports that the government is considering purchasing some unsold condo units from developers in British Columbia. Personally, I struggle to understand this policy. If developers build too many condos or price them beyond what buyers are willing to pay, shouldn't the market naturally correct it itself? Using taxpayers' money to support private business that make poor business decisions raises a lot of questions. Personally, I believe markets should be allowed to adjust naturally wherever possible. This is something I experienced personally. My husband's previous employer required every employee to enroll in the company's extended health benefits plan. Employees had to pay monthly premiums. Then, when they actually need treatment, they still have to pay around 20% of the medical costs themselves. I don't understand why participation wasn't optional. Not everyone regularly uses services like massage, acupuncture, chiropractic. Some people may rarely use these benefits, yet everyone is required to pay for them. Even more surprising, if an employee's spouse didn't already have extended health coverage, the employee also had to pay premiums for their spouse. That didn't really make sense to me. I think people should have more flexibility to choose coverage that actually fits their own needs. Of course, I know this doesn't apply to every employer in Canada. This was simply my husband's previous company. Fortunately, his current employer doesn't have the same policy. So this is just my personal experience, not something that applies to every company. I know rising living costs are a global issue, not just a Canadian one. However, compared to many Asian countries, I personally feel Canada's cost of living has become extremely high. Over the past few years, groceries have become much more expensive. Insurance premiums have increased. Rent has risen dramatically. Home prices remain very high. Eating out costs much more than before. Meanwhile, wages haven't increased at the same pace. Many people feel they are working just as hard, but saving less money every year. Despite this criticism, I don't hate Canada. In fact, there are many things I generally appreciate about this country. Canada is still politically stable, a home to beautiful natural scenery, full of friendly people, a wonderful place to enjoy the summer. I have enjoyed many aspects of living here. However, after 5 years, I have also noticed some structural issues that I didn't fully understand before moving here. Every country has its own strengths and weaknesses. These are simply my observation as an immigrant who has lived in Canada for the past 5 years. You may agree with some of my points, or you may completely disagree, and that's perfectly okay. I still want to hear your thoughts. What do you love about Canada? What do you think could be improved? Let me know in the comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.